Very, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the SP Abuja monthly technical meeting in collaboration with the Emmanuel Iboga Foundation. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining and welcome. Very, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the SP Abuja monthly technical meeting in collaboration with the Emmanuel Iboga Foundation. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining and welcome. Very, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the SP Abuja monthly.
I think I don't know what's happening to your system, but I can't see the slide.
Can you see it now, sir?
Are you not seeing that something is like a line on it? Can you see that?
Not from my end. Please confirm you can see my slide for others on the call. Dr. Yetunde?
We can see, but there is a freezing black spot.
Is that black spot? It's
okay
gone off now.
It's okay now. It has gone off.
Okay.
For that black spot
Okay.
I was saying.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Welcome, Professor Wumi. Very good evening, sir. Very, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the SPE Abuja monthly technical meeting in collaboration with the Emmanuel Iboga Foundation. We thank you for taking time to join this meeting. The time is 5 minutes past 5. And we appeal that you share the link to your WhatsApp groups, to your colleagues, to your friends, because today is going to be very, very brainstorming. You're going to learn so much today. We're so pleased to have a professor of petroleum economics, emeritus, of course, an early SU CCR for Energy Studies and a former SPARD, African Regional Director, who will be speaking to us on the theme Navigating the Unknown Nigeria's Oil and Gas Economy in a Volatile Global Energy Landscape. This meeting is going to last for about an hour, 30 minutes, and I'm assuring you that there's so much to learn from our amazing Professor Wumi Iledare, who is on the call. If you see my screen, we have the arrival of participants. After that, we have a safety brief. Then we introduce our speakers and distinguished guests. We switch gears immediately to a welcome remark by our amazing section chairman. And once he's done with his remark, we introduce our speaker. He's billed to speak for about 35 to 40 minutes. Thereafter, you have the opportunity to ask him questions for 15 minutes. And then we have the closing remarks by our program's chair. After the program's chair's remark, we round up with networking and we call it a day. This meeting is recorded and you can always visit the SP Abuja YouTube channel and you can watch our past programs and of course this event. Once again, we say a warm welcome. Do me a favor, kindly head over to the chat section of this call. Let's know where you're joining us from. Just do that for me. Go to the chat section and let us know the part of Nigeria, the part of Africa, or the part of the world you're joining us from. My name is Off and On, Ofofonono. My pleasure it is to serve as your moderator and MC for today. And while we wait for you to drop your names on the chat box, I would continue by recognizing some amazing people who have joined us on the call. But I'd like to read your chats. What do you hope to get from today's lecture? What do you hope to learn from Professor Wumi? Let's hear from you. Of course, like I said earlier on, this event is in collaboration with the Emmanuel Egboga Foundation. The Emmanuel Egboga Foundation was established in 2019 in honor of Dr. Emmanuel Egboga, OON. Of course, he lived between 1942 and 2018. The foundation is aimed at promoting his legacy anchored on the principles of prosperity for posterity. The focus area of EEF lies in the human capital and skills development for petroleum and the energy sector of Nigeria. Should in case you want to contact Emmanuel Boga Foundation, their details on the screen, info at emmanuelebogafoundation.org or www.emmanuelebogafoundation.org. And of course, you get all of the information you want from them. Of course, the SPE is always at your service to collect, disseminate, and exchange technical information concerning the exploration, development, and production of oil and gas resources in Nigeria. SPE Nigeria has 5 sections, which Abuja is one of them. So we are saying welcome and, of course, enjoy all of the values SPE has to offer to all of her members. Okay, let me go back to my chat box and see what my friends have got to say. Of course, on the chat box, we are pleased to have Komo Lenje Somacho from Abuja. Nice having you, sir. Emmanuel Kweku from Ghana. Amazing. Gabriel Gideon from Kaduna. Amazing. Welcome. Of course, we celebrate Mohammed Otman, a senior member of SPE Nigeria. From Port Harcourt section, Chidi Ibe. Professor Chidi Ibe, it's a pleasure to have you on the call. Of course, today is going to be like a mini reunion for all of our amazing academia and professors. Amazing. Welcome, Professor Chidi Ibe. Osamu Otabo, welcome from Lagos, Nigeria. Abdul Malik from Abuja, welcome. Paul Okon from Abuja. Of course, our amazing section chair, Dr. Ikechukwu Okafor, PhD, Associate Professor in the building from Abuja. Suleiman Shua Zaria, welcome, welcome, welcome. Keep introducing yourselves. Let me continue with the safety brief. We kindly appeal that for the course of this event, if you're not speaking, you leave your microphone on mute. If you want to speak, you raise your hands up. And of course, I, as the moderator, will give the permission to speak as the time comes. If you want to use drop a comment, use the C for comment and the Q for chat using the chat button below. Ensure you can still hear the fire alarm, of course, when you're using your headset. And of course, if you're driving back from work, we kindly appeal that you use your Bluetooth device in your car or you park in a safe space so that you can enjoy the meeting. Your Excellencies, very distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we switch gears immediately to recognizing amazing personalities that have joined us on the call. We start by saying a warm welcome to our leader, our chairman, our champion of excellence, a man who screams that Abuja section must be that section that champions excellence in the Nigerian Council. Please help me welcome Engineer Ikechukwu Okafor, PhD.
Hello.
Welcome, sir, and it's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Hey, Miran, how are you doing? Very well. You?
Good afternoon, good evening, section chair. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you, Akpan.
Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir.
Can I call you
Please
back?
confirm you can hear me.
We hear you loud and clear, sir. Welcome, sir. We're also pleased to have on the call the programs chair of SPE Abuja, Professor Kafayat Adeyemi. Welcome to you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us here today, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma. Like we said earlier on, this event is in partnership with the Emmanuel Egboga Foundation. We welcome the manager for the EAF. A warm welcome to you, Dr. Susan Fubara. Welcome, ma'am. Okay.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Akpan.
Evening, ma'am. We also say one welcome to Professor Mike Onyenkwo. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We welcome Mohammed Othman. We welcome all of our very distinguished senior members. Professor Chidibe, we welcome you. We thank you for joining this call. We're also pleased to have on the call the program chair 2 for SPE Abuja section, Dr. Yetunde Aladitan on the call. A warm evening to you, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am. Your Excellency's very distinguished guest, ladies and gentlemen, I saved his recognition for the last because he is the man speaking to us today. An erudite professor, a distinguished academia, a champion of excellence. Warm welcome to you, Professor Wumi Iledare. Good evening, sir. And confirm you can hear me, sir.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. Appreciate the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Prof, for accepting to speak to SP Abuja. Your Excellencies, we're also pleased to also celebrate Professor Ajenka, who is also on the call. A very, very warm evening to you, Prof, sir. Good evening, sir. Confirm you can hear me, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Wow. Wherever you see Prof. Wumi, you're always sure to see Prof. Ajinka. You're always sure to see other professors. Thank you, Prof. Wumi, for bringing Prof. Ajinka to an SPE Abuja event. Of course, this event, like I said, is in collaboration with Emmanuel Egboga Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll switch gears immediately to the welcome remark. No other person will take this than a man that is leading the section right. And Abuja will be the section of excellence throughout his 2 years of leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome for his welcome remarks, Engineer Ikechukwu Okafor, PhD, our section chair. Professor, would like to hear from you.
Thank you, Akpan. Good evening, everyone. Please confirm you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Akpan, when in the midst of our very senior professors like this, please, you should be calling me Engineer Ikechukwu. You don't want to jump the gun. So a very good evening to everyone on the call. Good evening, Professor Wumi. It's a pleasure to have you here. Good evening, Professor Chidi. Great to have you. Good evening, Professor Mike Onyekong. Good evening, Professor Ajenka. Apa, you may not understand, but I'm having my widest smile because it's looking like it's home again, where you have the very professors who brought you up to speed, who added funds to where your feet was planted, who supported the dreams, and who, in one way or the other, are part of your success story. It feels so great to be here and have them be here at this time to speak to a very passionate topic, navigating the unknown Nigeria oil and gas economy in a volatile global energy landscape. It's a critical topic at this point in time, and it's even more interesting that we have no other person taking it than the amiable, indefatigable Professor Wumi Iledare. It's such an amazing time for me to be here, and I want to say thank you to the Emmanuel Egboga Foundation for partnering with SP Abuja. It's a pleasure to the team, and I'm looking forward to learning again, because every time we meet in the building, it's a time to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And on that note, and on behalf of the board of SP Abuja section, I want to welcome everyone, my amiable professors, and everyone on this call to the July 2025 SP Abuja monthly technical meeting. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much to our section chair, who has kindly appealed that he shouldn't be addressed as an associate professor. We understand it, sir. And I celebrate all of our amazing professors for, of course, training and mentoring Oga Ikechukwu, that today he can proudly call himself a section chair. Thank you so much to our amazing professors for all they have done for him. Switching gears immediately, like I said, this event is in partnership with the Emmanuel Egboga Foundation. I would like to kindly call on Dr. Susan Fubara for 5 minutes or few minutes of her remarks before we switch gears to the lecture. Dr. Fubara, I'd like to hear from you, ma'am.
Okay. Akpan, can you confirm you can hear me?
Loud and clear, loud and clear.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this July technical meeting that is a collaboration between the Emmanuel Ibago Foundation and the Society of Petroleum Engineers, the Abuja section. I just want to say on behalf of the Emmanuel Ibago team, it is our pleasure to be partnering with SPE Abuja section for this particular webinar series. It's the first for us for this year. And like Dr. Ikechukwu had mentioned, there is no better person to actually help us do justice to the webinar theme of this evening. I look forward to learning from our very own executive director. I call him the professor and the man, the myth, the legend. He has it all when it comes to petroleum economics, and it will be our pleasure this evening to welcome everybody on this call to this particular lecture. And it's our hope that you get something out of this meeting that will help you have new insights as to the topic that is being discussed this evening. Thank you so much, Society of Petroleum Engineers Abuja section, for partnering with us. Thank you so much, and welcome everybody.
Thank you, thank you. I think she deserves some virtual applause for that amazing speech. As you can see on the screen, we have the synopsis in an area that has a lot of market disruptions, tensions, energy transition challenges, and fluctuating oil prices. Nigeria's oil and gas sector stands at the significant junction. This webinar examines how Nigeria can effectively manage risk, capitalize on its extensive hydrocarbon resources, and strategically navigate global volatility. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, like Dr. Fubara said, the professor, the man, the legend. He is a distinguished academia and professor in the field of petroleum economics and energy studies. He holds the position of principal facilitator at Fulbright Energy Business School, Federal University of Petroleum Resources, and of course, he's also a petroleum economics professor emeritus at Louisiana State University of the United States of America. His extensive experience encompasses strategic energy and petroleum economic analysis with a proven ability to communicate complex technical concepts to non-technical audiences. Known for his integrity and work ethics, Iledare has successfully managed projects in fast-paced environments. He holds a BSc honors in petroleum engineering from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria, MS in Energy Resources, Technology, Economics, and Policy from University of Pittsburgh, a PhD in Mineral and Energy Resources Economics from West Virginia University of the US. Of course, he's a member of the Society of Petroleum Engineers Board of Trustee and a past SPE Africa Regional Director. He has authored numerous research reports and papers contributing significantly to the body of knowledge in petroleum economics and policy. His published works include critical analysis of Nigeria's petroleum fiscal regulations and the economic effects of oil prices on the Gulf Coast economy. Professor Omowumi O. Iledare's extensive experience, academic contributions, and leadership in energy economics positions him as a key figure in the global energy landscape. His ongoing commitment to education and policy advocacy continues to shape the future of the petroleum industry in Nigeria and beyond. A senior fellow USAEE, a fellow NAEE, a fellow EI, petroleum economics professor emeritus LSU, Center for Energy Studies, a former SPA RLD, and Executive Director, Emmanuel Ibago Foundation. I can go on and on. A one-time this, a one-time that, ladies and gentlemen. Help me welcome the professor, the man, the legend for the next 40 minutes, Professor Wunmi Iledare. Over to you, sir, and welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Akpan. And let me recognize my Vice Chairman, Professor Joseph Ajienka. Let me also recognize my chair leader, Professor Chidi Ibe. And of course, I want to recognize the executive board of the Society of Petroleum Engineers, Abuja section. Allow me also to recognize the SPBOT members who perhaps are interested in joining this conversation. If you will allow me, let me give a belated birthday greetings to the Program Director of SP Abuja Direction, Professor Kafiat Adeyemi. Apologies, I just had too many things on my plate and somehow I missed the opportunity. I've been trying to reach you privately and somehow, so forgive me and kindly accept this belated birthday. We must celebrate each other. And Ike, if there's a title called Associate Professor, where you got it from, they usually do not put Associate Professor behind the name. As far as we are concerned in the United States, and you're an academia, and you begin from assistant professor, they will call you prof. You go to associate professor, they will call you prof. You become full professor, which we don't even say that in the United States, from where it is borrowed, we call you prof. Please, that is your title. And it doesn't matter whether you are professor emeritus or distinguished professor. A professor is a professor. And don't mind the fact that they do not respect professor in Nigeria does not mean that you did not earn it. Congratulations, and I hope soon or very soon, you won't have to be apologetic if anybody call you prof, because it's not honorary. You are reviewed and found worthy. Wear the cap. Again, thank you for this invitation. You know, you never know whether internet will disappoint or not disappoint. But let me see if I can share my presentation. And I'm so hopeful that I will be able to share it. I'm looking for it. I've seen it. Let's see. Okay, good. It's highlighted. And just confirm that you can see my presentation, please.
Yes, we see, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me make sure that I can minute this one. I'm trying to just, again, I try to have different internet, and I hope somebody will be admitting those people that are trying to join so that they will not cover my, okay, I think we're all right now. Well, don't mind my tweaking it's still the same thing. If you are able to navigate the volatile global energy landscape, then the future of Nigeria's oil and gas economy is secure. The biggest challenge is navigating the emerging global energy landscape. I try to avoid using the word energy transition in most of my speeches because energy hardly transit. So there's no doubt that the global oil and gas markets are facing profound uncertainty. And Nigeria's petroleum economy is vulnerable, yet potentially to this transformational. So how can Nigeria manage risk, unlock opportunities, and remain competitive? Now that's what I intend to see or share with you. Let me again, as always, make a disclaimer. I'm speaking on behalf of myself to share my perspective with the public. I don't represent SPE, I don't represent the government of Nigeria, and I don't represent, on this particular platform, the Emmanuel Egboga Foundation. You know, the man Emmanuel Egboga Foundation's philosophy is some of the reasons why we have endangered we have put ourselves and even our personality at stake to keep that philosophy going. Prosperity without posterity is inconsequential. And Emmanuel Egboga invested so much in people's life to perpetuate his legacy. And we are glad to do that. So I recognize Professor Ajianka for driving the agenda in Nigeria, and I acknowledge the chairman of the foundation in Canada for believing in what we are doing. Let me again recognize my, I don't know what to say, TAD for life, Dr. Susan Fubara. I want to wish her well publicly because she's about to move on from the Emmanuel Egboga Foundation, which actually was her baby, and even from the Petronet Africa. Let me publicly acknowledge you. You are loved and valued. To the extent that I have to hire 3 people to do the work you have done for 10 years for me, I will certainly miss you, but you are going nowhere. And I want to publicly acknowledge, buy into nearly every vision but one. But that's okay. We are surviving. Now, when you talk about energy transition, and I recognize everybody who are here to listen to my perspective on this, how do you navigate the volatile global energy landscape to secure the future of petroleum economy in Nigeria? The evolving energy landscape is the switching away from fossil fuel, or the transformation of the global energy sector from fossil fuel dominated energy system to zero carbon emission sources. It has fundamental implications for petroleum economics and petroleum economy as well, for petroleum dependent economies, especially Nigeria. Yes, the desire, determination, and diligence to switch is not debatable, neither is it conjectural. The key challenge is how the optimally balanced energy transition trilemma without petroleum resources can survive in terms of sustainability of energy and the environment, security of energy, and energy equity. You could see that this thing has been going on from 2004, if you look at, and let me acknowledge all my PhD students, about how many of them that went through me, and even my PhD student from Ghana, who actually wrote 4 dissertations on the implications of energy transition on Ghana economy. You see, when intellectuals are left out of things that matter, such nation cannot understand the policy imperatives that they have to take. I want to continue to encourage academia. You do not have to be in government to impact the government. You don't have to. Just continue to churn out your papers. And I've done that for the last 36 years. I have opinion on matters arising and nobody pays for it. 36 monthly opinion. And that's what I expect academia to do, especially on this issue. Listen, you can see the uncertainty in the share of global primary energy. You could see the up and down. Let's look at coal, which is the dark color on your right. Everybody expects it to come down, but when you look at 2020, it's rising again. Yes, the renewable energy is rising faster than every other energy, but that doesn't mean it is dominating. And the uncertainty concept is a reflection of not knowing precisely what the outcome of an action will be. And the fact that you don't know it precisely presupposes that there is a likelihood that it may not happen. And there's also a likelihood that it will happen. Am I saying that we should not pay attention? No. That we must pay attention with strategic thinking. And there's no better group of people in a nation that thinks strategically except the academia. And that's why I continue to challenge all the powers that be. Rethink, because that's exactly what China did in 1990, where they embraced their intellectuals to turn things around from them. Nigeria is not buying that philosophy. If there's a time to do that, it is now. Look at those that are advocating for net zero in 2050. Look at them. They are the ones with green in 2020 energy consumption. What will those with red color do? Those that are still dependent on fossil fuel, and there are many of them. You can see the statistical projection, and that's where you see the uncertainty that Nigeria must pay attention to strategically. The fossil fuels still dominate for the foreseeable future. And if you now decided to abandon it when the future is still about 30, 40 years away, the triple E nexus will become a challenge. And that's why you have to be thinking strategically. You can see the projection in 2025 that it is expected that coal will peak. But as it peaks, models are nothing more than the abstraction of reality that are dependent on the assumptions. And then when you impose the assumption on the United States, on Nigeria, with different degree of affordability, accessibility, and availability, not to even talk about the adaptability of the technology with inherent uncertainty, you have to pay attention. All fossil fuel is expected to peak at the end of this decade. But from whose perspective, it's an aggregation with a lot of standard deviation and variance. Am I saying we should not listen? Of course not. I would have expected a group in government with intellectual, just like what the US before Trump came used to do, where you get academia and put them in the advisory council of the president to look at different sectors in times like this. Academia should not be looked at as an aberration because they are the one with the tools. They are the one with the wisdom. And above all, they are the one with understanding. Look at the projection. You look at the global investment. It's more or less like what I'll call self-fulfilling prophecy. So Nigeria must not be unaware that investment into clean energy is what is being looked at. If you look at this graph in 2022 US dollar, you will see that from 2020, more money is going into renewable than fossil fuel. However, you could see that after COVID-19, there's now a new thinking that, wow, and I want you to recognize somebody like Packendo. You see, it's not about defunding petroleum. It is about reducing emission, where technology may be the key. Let me quickly go through all of this, and you could see the different assumptions that are made in 2023 to make the projection of investment into the different energy categories. So of course, there will be continued investment in fossil fuel with the different assumptions, whether accelerated rapidity for net zero, whether it is acceptable policy scenarios that are there, or the stated policy assumption. There will still be investment. And then, of course, you can ask you the different projections, and you can see what cost is. Again, if you look at the projection for technology, you could see that there's now an increase. Again, that's what I mean by volatility in the energy determinants. You know, when you then come to petroleum, there are three things you need to pay attention to that are highly uncertain, stochastically difficult to predict, and intellectual reasoning is key. One is the volume of petroleum. Two is the cost of extracting it. And three is the price. And all of them are highly stochastic. Then you will see with all of this projection, fossil fuels still dominate. Go and look at nearly every outlook. This is IEA projection, International Energy Agency. So the input of the energy transition prediction are highly stochastic. That's my preamble on the concept of transition. But let's quickly look at the state of oil and gas in Nigeria, because that is the only way we can better manage oil and gas in the future and the economy that comes with it. First, we are no longer the promised nation since 2005. And that's why you see us scrambling. But we could still be if we do the right thing that I'm going to be projecting towards the end. You could see everything is not the way they ought to be. Just pay attention. Look at this direction. Look at it. It's going down. That's production. You have 37 billion barrels of oil with 90% certainty that you actually have equipment installed to produce them. Something must be wrong. And permit me to tell you what is wrong. Governance. There's no reason why you can have a stable 37 billion barrels of oil in place and you cannot produce 0.03% of it. So you are supposed to be able to produce 3 million barrels per day. If they are actually proved, why are we not doing that? Right now, oil and gas remains central to foreign exchange in Nigeria. It is the fiscal buffer for the political economy of Nigeria. However, their impact on GDP is diminishing. Of course, the revenue importance is key. There are a lot of uncertainty exists, even from the PIA fiscal regime. And I don't see a lot of people looking at how to navigate it. Let's look at 13% derivation. Now that we have Nigerian hydrocarbon tax as different from corporate income tax. Every company in Nigeria pays corporate income tax. Is there a debate as to implication of that on 13% derivation, which has never been used well anyway in most of the states, perhaps except Akwa Ibom? And correct me if I'm wrong. The transition pressure will continue to rise. What's government going to do to diversify their revenue? Listen, we are no longer the new kid in the block. Before the PIA, this is where we were stuck in terms of attractiveness of doing business in Nigeria and competitiveness of doing business in Nigeria. Whether we are going to move to this direction is highly uncertain unless the governance is properly married. So how will I summarize the state of Nigerian economy that can have implication on the sustainability of the petroleum economy of Nigeria in the future? Everything, even 4 years after, and I stand corrected, 4 years after PIA, we have not been able to reserve this driving against the traffic. After the PIA, in the last 4 years, we still have volatility in liquid production. We have insecurity, we have OPEC constraint, we have IOC divestment. However, honestly, those are part of the good things that we see that PIA brought that can have good implication on the sustainability of our economy. But they are highly uncertain, unless even those people that are taking the divestment are transparent, accountable, and effective in the governance of their business. Are they doing that? If they are not, they need to think. And that begins with recruiting skilled workers that are not skilled to godfatherism. Again, you're going to see what PIA, the midstream downstream. In fact, the market-based pricing and subsidy is being misunderstood. The institution that is supposed to be responsible does not understand that free market does not exist. And you cannot have a free market with an oligopoly market structure in the wholesale downstream market. It's far from being monopolistic. Neither is it monopoly. So you cannot use a monopoly cap to do downstream liberalization optimization. You have to be careful also not to attempt to promote competitiveness through importing inferior goods to make it cheaper. In a market that is anti-competitive, it is important to have a regulatory institutions to manage the uncertainty that the Nigerian petroleum economy faces. Yes, there's a trilemma of accessibility, affordability, and availability. But that doesn't mean you are going to pay attention to one without thinking of the other. Those are the inherent uncertainty that the oil and gas industry must navigate. And then, of course, look at the gas to power. You have decades of gas policy alignment with the PIA, but are you embracing it? If you look at the gas policy of 2017, which to a large extent is in line with PIA, the emphasis is on 3 anchors: gas to power, 1, industrialization, 2, and net export value. We must not allow governance to deviate us away from the objective. Within the context of the status of Nigerian case, Nigeria is committed to net zero, but they must not exit the train too quickly to not create a challenge. They must not use forecasts that are either IEA, OPEC as the guiding principle, because the stochastic distribution of the uncertainty is heterogeneous instead of being homogeneous. What are the regulatory challenges that can inhibit the sustainability of petroleum economy in Nigeria? Role clarity. The Ministry of Petroleum, the Petroleum Commission, and the Petroleum Authority must not be territorial. They must know that they have the same objective and they must coalesce. And these are some of the inherent, they ought to navigate this unknown with respect to the sustainability of Nigerian economy. The role clarity does not mean there can be territorial protection. And that's why the government may need to think of the budgeting process of some of the agencies under them. When a regulatory agency is looking at their internally generated revenue as a key performance indicator, it is a threat to the sustainability of the Nigerian future oil and gas economy. They should be looking at regulatory performance in terms of moving towards competitiveness for investment, competitiveness for attractiveness, and competitiveness with other people. Let us not deceive ourselves. We need to have moved faster than we are doing. And please, let me know my time. You see, there must be access to data. And when they are copyrighted, then they must be able to enter the agency, look at the data without taking them out. I want to say online, I had the production profile of nearly every lease in the United States producing oil and gas when I was resident at LSU. Do we have that? Data transparency is a way to attract investors. You must understand also that we still have capacity constraints, and it's as a result of our federal character. Nearly, those are threats to the future sustainability of the oil and gas economy. Yes, we have security issue, oil theft, pipeline. We must not hesitate to prosecute criminality instead of rewarding them. I'm talking about navigating the unknown. The consequences of some of these things that I'm mentioning are critical to the future because that's what is affecting us right now. You must commend the government for doing the right thing when it comes to value creation, but transparency and accountability is key. The petroleum value chain can be enhanced with governance, accountability, transparency, and that's the only way you can navigate this unknown. Dangote factor. I'm looking at the current state of the Nigerian petroleum economy. It should be celebrated without necessarily compromising the objective for downstream competitiveness. In fact, Dangote does not want to be a monopoly, because if it becomes a monopoly, the regulatory institution will pounce on him. And the sanction they will be on him can make him go bankrupt. So he really should not pursue monopoly. Neither should he be encouraged to pursue that. But that doesn't mean it should be handicapped using import license without standardizing the product that comes to them. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm only saying that these are how to, I'm just telling you the way to navigate the unknown. Yes, frontier exploration, you know. And you can see the basins, Chad, Anambra, Benue Trough, Dahomey, Sokoto, deep water. So you must balance frontier spending even as we look at decarbonization capital needs. And everything begins with data acquisition. How are we going to negative? The policy institutions set clear, stable policy direction, reduce uncertainty premium. I don't want to put you into trouble. That's why I said that I represent everything I said. Nigeria has no policy institution as of today that can be sustained. The Minister of Petroleum is handicapped. You cannot have a political setting to sustain a policy that will take us to the future. Let me commend PTDF for their effort to train the Minister of Petroleum. But they must continue to demand competent people to train them. They must coordinate regulation. Remember, my objective is how do we navigate this unknown for the future of petroleum economy in Nigeria. You cannot have a policy and not evaluate whether it's delivering your objective. And everybody must be able to know what your objectives are and follow you. I'm not condemning anybody. Please don't get me wrong. But I'm just telling you certain things need to be corrected. That is more or less fueling more uncertainty that PIA wanted to create. Yes, let's look at the Tinubu administration energy agenda. The cost efficiency executive order is in place, but I will encourage that we have a regulation to back it up so that somebody will not come and have a counteractive executive order that is going to deliver what is expected to deliver, require consistent evaluation of that goal. And by the way, just in passing, this was in the PIGB in 2018. So could you imagine, if not because of the political uncertainty, having this in place 5 years ago? Investment attraction licensing. These are key things that are worth celebrating, but they must be evaluated without sentiment. Yes, the power, gas to power, is the key anchor in the petroleum policy for gas. And the PIA, listen, we have so many players that will not study the importance of the elements that will have helped them. And now they are coming back. Instead for them to accept the Nigerian hydrocarbon tax, they lobby to remove it. And now they are looking for incentive through the back door. You need people that I'll call your first 11 when playing games with people with probably superior first 11. I'm sorry to say, that's the truth. And I've been in a room where those people that seem to be getting their way now knew they were just advising because they saw the people they are talking to and they were in awe. The government must realize that if they are going to navigate the unknown in the transition to green energy, they need to be on their plate. It's not a political problem at all. It's an economic problem. I call it the triple E that are in jeopardy for a nation like Nigeria. One is energy crisis. Two, economic crisis. Three, environmental problem. I almost shed tears today when I saw the person that I hired to clean my house. I was crying. You know, I did that before, but I have a primary school education. The government must understand that there's an economic crisis. And following the path, those that do not have economic crisis are projecting to you is not the way to go. So what's the future? We need investment. And that's why the government must do whatever they can to support the energy bank. 2 million barrels per day oil with 37 billion reserve should not be difficult if the government is transparent, accountable, and allow the separation of the roles in the PIA to be apolitical. Okay, let me run because I'm looking at my time. Akpan, please don't worry to let me know the imperative of industry governance in the PIA if Nigerian petroleum economy is to survive. It is imperative to be effective, efficient, and equitable in the implementation of the PIA. And for the last 4 years, in my opinion, who genuinely know the intent of the law, I think you are allowing the letter of the law to drive you. And that will not protect the economy of Nigeria that will still depend on oil for the next 2 decades, in my opinion. Well, look at them, Jonathan, Yaradua, and Obasanjo. You must credit him because he was the one who did it. But let me say it often. Actually write an op-ed comparing his administration when it comes to the governance of the oil and gas industry with Jonathan administration when it comes to the governance of the oil and gas industry. Wait to read my opinion. I won't tell you what the result is. When people are still allowing the Petroleum Act to guide their decision making, then they're creating more uncertainty in this business. The legal framework is well established. The only thing Nigeria has is the governance issue. Yes, the Minister of Petroleum Resources is the weakest link, and the government will do their best to improve that link. The policy institution must not be the weakest link, because everything the authority does, the commission does, and NMP's Commercial Limited is driven by the policy leadership of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. I continue to say it. Bad policy, worst implementation of the PIA. We have the governance structure. Yes, the president must be commended because finally, after 3 years, or nearly 4, we are moving towards the intent of the law. And the president must do the same thing when it comes to the commission and the authority. If we are going to navigate the so many unknowns that can have impact on the petroleum economy of Nigeria, the Petroleum Commission needs a board. Otherwise, let me tell you a story. There was one time in Nigeria, and many more times. I'm sure you remember the PID situation when the ministry did what they are not supposed to do. Nigeria was only lucky that the judge understands the intricacies. I also want to remind you of one assistant to the president who issued a letter to another company with respect to fiscal terms, especially royalty. And they went to court several years later. I want to remind you of the letter that was written with respect to backing to one of the oil companies, which was right. And today, I'm not sure it is resolved. So you have to be careful to not do anything that has any element of violating the law. One day, somebody may take the commission to court and the authority, because they seem to be doing so many things that is contravening to the PIA intention. The minister cannot be given directive to the commission. It is the board of directors. And I don't even stand corrected because I know the intent of that law. And mark my word, those are unknown that can be easily corrected. certainly I also want to challenge anybody in the oil and gas industry to debate me whether the Nigerian fiscal instruments in the PIA is not superior to what they had before, except for the stabilization clause. Let us operate with transparency, both from the private sector in our dealing, because that's the only way we can delimit the negative impact of uncertainty. Some of these things you can read. My friend, Nigeria is unique when they look for a local solution to a local problem. Twice in the oil and gas industry in Nigeria, they've done it. The Nigerian content was a local solution to a local problem. The Host Community Development Trust Fund was a local solution to a local problem. And actually, it became a benchmark for the emerging oil and gas business in Africa especially. I'm not going to talk about whether the 3% is good or not good, but it begins, and for the first time, as part of the way to minimize the uncertainty, the government is defining how the host community fund is spent. If you look at every instrument addressing the Niger Delta, we never stipulate how the fund will be spent. For the first time, 75% for capital fund, and it is the community that will determine how to spend that 75%. And 20% of the fund, because of the intergenerational connection, which is another way to minimize the unknowns, is kept in savings. And only 3% is used for the something. Let me conclude with what I call the Nigerian PIA implementation quadlemma. One is effectiveness. The conceptual framework underlying PIA expect outcomes that are strategic. The business as usual implementation approach, where, don't let me look as if I'm criticizing, where some institutions are thinking that they are mergers of old institutions, is business as usual. Let me say it if they are listening. The Petroleum Commission is not a merger of DPR with any other. It is a new creation by the law. And to function as if you are still a DPR is going to affect the navigation path to petroleum economy future in Nigeria. Neither is the authority a merger of PEF, PPPRA, and DPR. It's a misconception. And in order to reduce the infighting, the workers must continually be reminded that that's not the case. So it's about equity, effectiveness, ethics, and efficiency. If we are going to match properly, we must learn to do the right things the right way. It's not about speed, but it's about quality and cost minimization. The provisions in the Act make efficiency a desirable. You have a price-cost ratio, you have the setting of deductible capital allowance, you have time tax incentive to output, you have accountability, you have anyone that is giving the industry incentives that are not based on performance is at variance to the PIA and is making the future of petroleum economy more uncertain. It is about bringing together people that can properly advise, whether they have opinion that is different from yours, put them on the table. In a generic sense, effectiveness implies the right doing the right things without compromising doing things the right way. You must have looked at an idea, strategy, teamwork, management, process, competence, progress, and quality if you want to be effective. And I know what I'm talking about. Effectiveness does not allow micromanaging with a transactional mindset. If you have that, you will never be effective. And of course, a transformational leader is effective because it has a vision. It leads through change. It translates strategy to action, and it develops employer capability. Don't let me praise a particular company. Let me do. The name is Shell. You can see what their capacity principle has done to the Nigerian oil and gas 40 years later. Even me, with a good degree from the one and only one university in Nigeria, they still said that I must go for their training. Look at all the indigenous leaders today for the oil and gas industry. You see, a transformational leader thinks about developing employee capacity. And I don't know why government will not do that. If they want to be able to have good communication, they leverage on emotional intelligence. They find a way to get people to buy their vision without forcing them. If the future is to be secure in this petroleum economy, we need to go back. Equity is key. And that's why you see the petroleum host community being properly. But are they not fighting? I have a friend who wanted to go to his community and be part. Are they not squabbling with how to invest the 20%? Are we being sentimental to make sure they do that? And I mentioned something that the Federation must think about. Equity. Perhaps the derivation formula needs to be revisited because you are in a different time and the future is more at stake now than ever before. But thank you, there's so much to say. Ethics is part of the way to navigate this uncertainty that the energy landscape volatility is bringing to us. Petroleum business across the value chain in Nigeria has moral obligations to safeguard ethical behavior in business decisions. Again, and if you look at the PIA, you will see one word over and over again: transparency, accountability, fairness, mutuality of interest, and so on and so forth. So let me conclude. There's so much to say. I want to be able to get people to answer questions. By the way, my principle is build one, operate many. I put all of this together the last 4 hours this morning, so you forgive me if there are many. Look at it. The quality of life is at stake if there's energy crisis in Nigeria. Look at where all the developed economy, the less developed, look at where they are. Developing nations. And look at those that are advocating for energy transition in a hurry. You can't let them. Petroleum in the energy mix is critical for the sustainability of even the environment in Nigeria and the economy. Yes. The beauty of it is that the Petroleum Industry Act is transformative, but the implementation will determine the impact. Policy clarity, regulatory coordination will reduce investment risk premium. The reason why more investment is not flowing in Nigeria is because the governance structure today is enhancing uncertainty that it took us 20 years to achieve. I'm sorry. You know, in fact, most of the things I say preclude me from ever serving government. No, because somebody has to tell the government to look at things from a generational point of view instead of just tending to the current generation. Listen, it is there in the PIA that gas-led diversification can even help to fund broader energy transition, not this CNG driving expansion. No, gas infrastructure. Go to the middle of nowhere like they did in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, and put a gas infrastructure there to create energy sustainability and availability. The government is doing well to make sure those communities are taken care of. It is a necessity. Oh, I remember in Huma in Louisiana, and even in Alaska, that's what they call bridge to nowhere. And we've done it before. Let us move away from spending a great portion of petroleum economic rent on governance. PIA has been designated to resolve the unintended consequences of this quadlemma. Just implement it right. Well, thank you very much. To me, the last 4 years, I saw nothing but business as usual in the implementation strategy of PIA. The way forward is transparency and accountability in the decision that you make. Thank you very much, and forgive my passion, because this is the place to be in Africa. Nigeria is a promised nation, and they represent the Black race. And we must remember that. May God bless Nigeria. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe Professor Wumi Iledare deserves some virtual applause. He remains a global thought leader, of course, an academic institution in motion, a strategic voice in the petroleum economics industry, from data to direction to policy to purpose to vitality to vision. He has shown us that navigating the global energy industry isn't just about panic, it is a perspective. Thank you so much, Professor Wumi, for your amazing lecture. Of course, we can see the comments coming in on the chat box. We can see the questions coming in. Amazing, amazing. Salute, Prof. That's from Babs Oyeneyin. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Section Chi has also given his own virtual applause. Kafayas Adeyemi, Prof has done hers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we are switching gears to questions immediately. Please type your questions in the comment section. The questions is to last for only 15 minutes and the time starts now. By 6:30, we are going to wrap up the question segment. So please, we're going to pick 5 questions from those that will speak and about 3 from those that will drop on the chat box. So I'm going to start with the first question on the chat box to you, Prof. And after that, the first hand that has been raised, I can see right now, is that of Dr. Yetunde Alaiditan. So, Dr. Yetunde, after this, I will mute your mic and then you can speak. Let me start with the very first question to Prof. On a global basis, this is from Godwin Igwe, and to understand the future of the oil and gas industry and development future strategies, is Nigeria considering some critical uncertainties and drivers like sustainability, reliability, and affordability? Note that reliability includes accessibility. This is from Godwin Igwe from the USA. So, sir, you want to take the question, then I pick the next one.
Thank you, Professor Igwe. I miss you, and I hope we'll see again. Well, certainly, Nigeria is very conscious of what they call the environment, sustainability, and governance as part of what is required to fund energy projects. When you want go and borrow money, there's part of what you need to submit, and the government is very conscious of that. The government is very conscious of environment. I'm not speaking from government. I'm just speaking on the basis of what I read. They have a very unique environmental management plan, and they have actually subscribed to nearly every climate agreement that you have on the table. And luckily, Professor Achidibe, who was actually very active during the initial global debate, is on this place. So Nigeria is not trying to not abide by some of those climate policy agreements. And they are very conscious of the importance of sustainability. Even for the nation, every nation is very conscious that the environment cannot be degraded. So, Professor, I think they are doing their best in terms of making sure they stay engaged. But the only thing I keep saying is that don't let the strategy be dictated to you. And I've seen it without mentioning people. Quite often, you find countries, Professor Igwe, going for the grant, and in the process, not planning well before just hearing what is being dictated to them. And I think the world now has become aware that this prescription cannot be uniform, but they need to continue to make sure that they allow nations to have strategy and work with them to develop their strategy. So Nigeria is not isolated. Nigeria is keeping pace with whatever is going on. And even the intellectual community are doing their best by submitting proposals that look at the energy, economy, and environmental nexus. So we are paying attention to that, I think, from the academic community at least.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that very sound response. I kindly like to appeal and, of course, welcome on the call the very first speaker who spoke, who gave his questions, Professor Godwin Igwe. Thank you, sir, for that amazing question. We'll switch gears immediately, and we also celebrate Chigeze Nwozu on the call. We see his chat, passionate, erudite, and transformational as always. Thank you, Chigeze Nwozu, for your amazing response. We also see that from our section J. So, Yetunde, Dr. Yetunde, you ask your question, and then after that, Oga Mohammed Othman will ask his question. Then we come back to the chat. So please, Dr. Yetunde, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Akpan. Prof, excellent presentation as usual. You kind of took me back to our petroleum economics class. One sentiment I share with you is concerning us. It's not about, you mentioned that it's not about reducing the use of petroleum, but actually reducing our carbon footprint. Be that as it may, I have a question, and my question is, how can the Nigerian government balance the need to attract investment in the oil and gas sector with the need to ensure environmental and social sustainability? Thank you.
Again, let me again say that I think I did some posting long time ago with respect to anybody who thinks his opinion is the only one is the father of ignorance. So these are my opinion, and I welcome other opinion. To me, I don't want to bet because I'm not a better. The issue for Nigeria with respect to attracting investment is governance. And I keep repeating it, the governance of the oil and gas industry, when it is transparent, accountable, and when it is effective, efficient, and ethical. You can't have a country that has 37 billion barrels with 90% chance of getting it, and perhaps more, will not attract investment. And I are not even talking about the potential resources in about 7 basins that have not been explored. What we need is transparency, accountability, and governance. And it begins with making sure that the officials that are civil servants, are public servants, are not afraid because of their job. And I can tell you, I mean, listen, I work in the industry for about 3 years, and I knew how receptive the community were to us at that particular time. I'm talking about 1980 to 1983. There was no better place to go than Niger Delta to drill. And there was no evidence at that particular time that was an injustice. If you look at the military hospital in Port Harcourt, it was built by Shell. You can quote me before it was taken over. So the industry understands corporate social responsibility as more or less an investment that can lead to higher return. Most of the problem we have, I stand corrected, is transactional leadership mindset in the governance of the system. And if we change that, believe you me, because I've proved it. I was not transactional in Ghana. I graduated student on time. I was not transactional in Uniport. I graduated students on time. And now in FUPRI, I'm not transactional and will graduate students. You need transformational leaders. And that is the only biggest challenge that is creating uncertainty in Nigeria. All your concerns will be eliminated if the leader understands that it's not about now. But if you look at equity, it's balancing now and the future. And when a governance structure emphasizes or embraces that, let me be careful, because I wanted to say, look at the person that is being transactional in the US. Look at what's going on in the US at this moment. That even the US passport has significantly reduced in value as to how many countries that they can enter. Governance is key to adding values and protecting future generations.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question will be from Oga Mohammed Ottoman. Then we go back to the chat and get Professor Chidibe's question. Oga Mohammed, please.
Yeah, okay, good evening. I hope you can hear me all.
Yes,
Loud and
I
clear.
can hear you.
So thank you, Prof, for you are always giving a exceptional speech, either virtually or physically. Thank you very much, on point. So quickly, you talked about creating competition with Dangote, competitor with Dangote. So I know that is a big one because I know how long it took him to get to where he is. So it won't be that easy. So I want to ask, will it be, because I had the news of government trying to privatize its own refinery, can we say that maybe that will be the best, a quick avenue to create a competitor so that we can encourage investors to acquire it? I think it will be the easiest way to create a competitor for Dangote because of its huge investment. Thank you, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an excellent question. For me, as an economist, I probably would not talk about creating competition. I would talk about enabling competition or creating a framework to promote competition. And that's what the PIA says. Unfortunately, that environment is currently toxic. So you first of all need to remove the toxic. I personally am objected to people crucifying Dangote because they did not crucify NNPC Limited, which actually prolonged the anti-competitive behavior in the downstream when they were the single importer of fuel for many years. And when they read the body language of the president and not do the needful under President Buhari, and then read the body language of another president and created the chaos that is making it difficult to enable the intent of the PIA to occur. Now, I've been on TV on Monday at 1 o'clock to debate the selling of NNPC refinery. Who's going to buy it? And if somebody is going to buy it and make profit out of it, what stops NNPC Limited, who is a private company, to see what they can do? I mean, these things should not be debated on the front of the newspaper. No. It is the board of NNPC's decision to make, unless you don't want to respect the PIA provisions. It's not sentimental. In terms of competition, I know we don't have time. In any market, there are 4 market structures. One is a monopoly, a single seller in that segment of the market. 2 is an oligopoly, which is very small, large companies in that market. 3 is a monopolistic market where you have very many and very many small buyers and sellers. The behavior and conduct of the markets are different. You cannot become purely competitive market, which is the 4th one. It is the ideal market that does not exist anywhere because it has 4 assumptions that are violated, easily violated. 1, there's free exit and free entry. I don't think that's happening in Nigeria because you need a license. 2, there's perfect information. You know what it costs whoever is selling you what is selling. That does not exist. 3rd, there is what we call small sellers, small buyers. No participant in the pure market can affect the market dynamics. You don't have that either. And finally, in a pure market, you have an homogeneous product, and that does not exist. Even in the gasoline market in Nigeria, you have 3 types of gasoline product. So in that case, you are left with whatever deck is given to you. For Nigeria today, it's going to take a while to move away from being an oligopoly PMS market. And what you have in Nigeria is oligopoly pure market, where 3 groups are competing for market share. The marketers that are trying to import, NNPC Limited that has the depot and government backing, and Dangote. And the only thing the 3 of them are fighting for is market share. And that's why you look at them, they're trying to look at each other's pricing mechanism to set their own price. And this is where you need the regulator. But if the regulator is not competent, they are going to be playing like soccer. And whoever have their ears, and that's why you see the marketers are fighting so that they can be importing, but the products are not homogeneous. And the regulator must have a way to independently look at their product and sanction them if they don't meet it. So you don't have a perfectly competitive market in Nigeria. You cannot create it, but you can enable it. And that's what the PIA says.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. That was really, really passionate from you. Ladies and gentlemen, we kindly appeal that you don't send in more questions. If you want to contact or have questions, you send a private message to Professor Umida on WhatsApp, on LinkedIn, email, of course, his line. We switch gears to the last 3 questions for today, which is firstly from Prof. Chidibe, secondly from Prof. Ikechukwu Okafor, and finally from Williams David. Just 3 questions, and we are done for today. Prof. Chidibe's question, please comment further on implications of bringing down the per unit cost for production for competitiveness.
Thank you. You know, I mentioned to you that 3 things are important, especially in the upstream business: volume, price, and cost. The one you have control over is your cost. And that's where cost management strategy is key. And that's where cost benchmark is key. And if you don't have data, quality data, it's going to be difficult for you to benchmark. Remember, cost is key from government point of view when you are trying to calculate your income tax. And so you expect the FRS to be able to have enough data on the cost component of every aspect of the upstream. And the commission is going to regulate the commercial and technical component should have access to data so that when somebody submits proposal for approval with their cost, you will benchmark it and you cannot be sentimental. And then the joint venture partner, which is the NNPC Limited now, must have the same philosophy with their joint venture partner. And that philosophy is maximization of profit. And when they don't control costs, and they know volume is highly uncertain because there's a difference between marketed production and technical production. What you have control over the most is your cost per unit. And by the way, in 1980, it cost only $2 per barrel to produce a barrel of oil. And I was a petroleum engineer in Shell. And then you look at what you have now, most of it is as a result of gold plating. Gold plating is a legal way to increase your cost. The place to wait for someone is during the tax calculation, where the cost benchmark is gauged against you. And I'm sorry to say any other thing because that can have implication on anybody. You have to manage the cost, and it is possible. And that's where the concept of local content comes in. The fact that you are using local product that meets the standard does not mean the local product should be expensive. Yeah. And for some of us that are doing things locally, well, at times my head got a little bit off the roof when I see somebody paying someone because he came abroad. And that person is probably not as brilliant as myself. It affects my thinking. That's the concept of local content. Local content is not an instrument to increase local cost that then skyrocketed the cost of production in Nigeria. It should actually reduce it because they are locally sourced. And that's where institutional governance comes in again. When you are asking somebody to drop his cost, instead of going to Uyo, a beautiful hotel structure there, to have your meeting, you want to go to Dubai, or you want to go to London, instead of going to that place in Calabar. Yeah, all of those things come from a barrel. Yes. Those little things, they come from a barrel. Instead of buying barite here, you buy barite abroad with import duty or bentonite. But if you want to even buy it here, they want to charge you, they call it export-import parity. Who says that? Why are you paying me, a professor emeritus from LSU, the salary of a professor in Nigeria? Those are ways to reduce your cost, in my opinion. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay. Actually, it's already, Prof is smiling. You've answered it well, sir. Okay, we go straight. Okay. Babajide Alo. Well done, Prof. We agree with you totally with your policy prescriptions. Emeritus Prof. Babajide Alao. Wow, so many profs on the call today. Thank you, Prof. Alao. Okay, we switch gears to the next question from Prof. Ikechiko Okafo. How would you advise the Ministry of petroleum resources to efficiently steer the policy that will enable a better oil and gas industry in Nigeria? That's from Prophet Ketchum.
Well, I had the privilege the last 2 days to have conversation with them on some of these things. Again, I can understand their frustration. I can understand their frustration. They are not even, in fact, I heard them saying things like, oh, Kachiku was the best that ever come to the ministry, and make sure that the ministry people are engaged. We don't have that anymore. Everything policy is either on the 11th floor, on the 12th floor, or the people that they, in fact, that they brought someone from, and please, I'm going to say what if you ask me this question as Professor Emeritus, I will answer my question.
Okay.
Why should ministry be bringing people from the commission and bringing people from the authority to peace advisor for policy when it's creating the policy for them, instead of using the ministry staff? If they are not capable, develop them. So the only way to sustain policy is to make sure that the ministry people are engaged. And the way to help the ministry, because this sector is very critical, is to make them feel like the other staff that you have in the commission, NMPC, and the authority. How can you be paying them mega salary compared to their compensatory rate in the agencies that they formulate policy to guide? And every attempt to reform the ministry have been rebuffed because of civil servant mentality that they have. And that's why you see Yaradua created a professional cadre in 2007, those that will never leave the ministry because of the critical importance of the ministry. I'm sorry, there's a proposal that has been with the wages and whatever they call them commission about recognizing this inequity. That is the only way they can become. I even commend them because they are so passionate to do this job. But up the far makes the heart weak. Those are the governance issues that you need to address and not be sentimental about it. They have competent professionals that are as good as the commission and the authority. Engage them. Engage them. There's nothing that stops the minister who really understand that the PIA is not talking about individual when they use the word the minister. Search it. You see, the minister is symbolic from a policy institution point of view. And if anybody is a minister and think that he is the minister and he can just go and get anybody, no, it's missing the point. The minister is an institution. And that's some of the reason why you see uncertainty in the cloud. When the minister is looking at himself as institution, as the institution, that's personalization of an institutional power. Of course, you can also blame the civil service structure when whoever is heading the institutions, the departments are not necessarily up to speed with the oil and gas industry that they are supposed to formulate policy about. And again, I commend the PTDF for trying. But a leopard cannot change without surgical operation to the skin. If you go to Ghana, it's not the same. The Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Petroleum, whatever their name is, whoever had a unit there is a professional who understands the industry. And you can see the working relationship between the commission there in Ghana, the authority in Ghana, and the Ministry of Petroleum. The PIA defines the role clearly, but the Ministry of Petroleum is the weakest link, and to a large extent is the personalization of the power of the Minister of Petroleum, in my opinion. And that has to change. And I challenge the two ministers in the ministry to engage the ministry staff and not the authority and the NMPC or the commission staff that is seconded to them. Don't leave the staff out of the policy formulation and implementation as prescribed in the PIA. And I speak from the intent of the PIA because I participated in the original debate.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prof. That was very, 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 very passionate of you. I like the quotes you just gave. A leopard cannot change without surgical operations of its skin. Yes, that one enter. Thank you so much, Prof, for that amazing quote. Okay, the last question, Williams David. How reliable is the Nigerian oil and gas industry is for future of petroleum engineers when compared to the present efficiency percentage of these industries' productivity? Do we have a bright future as upcoming petroleum engineers? Please, I stand to be corrected for any errors observed. Thank you, sir. From William David.
You have too many petroleum engineering schools. Yeah. Without professor of petroleum engineering. Otherwise, you would have been producing people to export. Go to Saudi Arabia. Go to all of those countries and look at the people working there. They are Nigerians. Very many of them are Nigerians. So it's okay to study petroleum engineering because the petroleum engineering is still going to be here for the next 50 years. Mark my word. But I'm not sure you are getting a quality petroleum engineering that can make you fit into the expectations that Nigerians are feeling there in all of those countries. Go and look at all the national petroleum companies outside Nigeria and see the caliber of Nigerians that are there. And your attitude in school has to change as well. I mean, if they challenge you too much, you say the professor is a bad professor, right? You cannot be having 100 petroleum engineering students in the class and you think the quality will not go down when you don't even pay your professor well. That professor has to be fending for food. Too many petroleum engineering schools in Nigeria. So people should stop applying to in fact, petroleum engineering should become a graduate program in Nigeria because you have too many people with undergraduate degree without a job, which is actually messing up the quality of the profession, in my opinion. I hope that helps you. And study data analytics. Go and study chemical engineering. Go and study electrical engineering. What's the reason why you are studying petroleum engineering? In those days, we didn't study petroleum engineering because of the salary in the oil and gas industry. We studied petroleum engineering because we wanted to display the foreign people taking the industry job in Nigeria in those days. That's why we went to petroleum engineering. If I remember, 32 of us were in class. 16 of them went to study mechanical engineering when the price of oil went down. The same thing if you go to Oxford. Whenever there's no future, you don't stay in that industry. You look for an industry that has a future. I hope my answer is not too harsh. You have too many students in petroleum engineering school in Nigeria, and the upstream can only take maximum of how many? So, and at the end of it, then it becomes MKM. And most of the time, those who are not competent the most, let me keep quiet. So, thank you. I hope I answer your question. The oil and gas business will still be there. But those people admitting students to petroleum engineering need to think twice and reduce the number the way UI did in those days. I don't see why any undergraduate class in petroleum engineering should be more than 20 students. I'm campaigning for that with the graduate program that we have in FUPRE. No, we don't want to fill it. We want quality, not quantity. Sorry if I'm harsh, forgive me.
Thank you, Prof. Prof, you can never be harsh. I wish no young lads can listen to you speak because you give them the idea and the advice which can change their career forever. Thank you so much, Prof, for that very passionate response. William has responded, wow, thank you very much, Prof, and thanks to the host for giving me the opportunity to speak. And that is what we do in SPE Abuja. That's what we do at Emmanuel Eboga Foundation. We come to the very end of this session, and of course, we are grateful to Prof. Prof, you have so many accolades on the chat box. And Prof, because of you, the first time SPE Abuja, the first time any section in Nigeria is having about 8 profs in one event. Thank you, Prof, for bringing all of your friends. Of course, where Prof is, other profs are there. Shout out to Prof Baba Alo, Prof Chide, Prof Ajenka, Prof Babs, Prof Kafayat, and of course, Prof Ikechukwu Okafor, the baby professor. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we switch gears to the next part of this event, which is telling you about SPE Abuja section and some of the other events we have. Of course, if you can see my screen, you understand that we have so many reasons you should join SPE Abuja. The first is that you have access to this kind of events. Our student members have access to mentorship and all of that. SPE Abuja's membership fee is 86,500 Naira only. And of course, the renewal fee is 69,500 Naira only. If you miss renewing on time, you tend to pay an reinstatement fee of 17,000 Naira. Contact Dr. Ogenurume Ogolo using the number on your screen, and he will assist you with membership or renewal. All of our past events have been on YouTube. We are committed to showing technical knowledge. So, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to appeal that you visit our YouTube, our Facebook, our LinkedIn, our Instagram, and of course, our Gmail for any kind of questions or inquiries you may have. The biggest flagship event of the SPE Nigeria Council is coming up. I can say drum rolls, right? This is the NICE, the Nigerian Annual International Conference and Exhibition. It's going to hold from the 4th to the 6th of August, 2025, live at Eco Hotels and Suites. Believe you me, you should be at Eco Hotel. Prof. Ume will be there. Several other profs will be there. Prof. Ikechukwu will be there. So why should you not be at NICE 2025? Why should you be there? Because Prof. Ume has a course on petroleum economics and fiscal regimes. Go to the SP website and try and register. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we switch gears, of course, to another event. It's back-to-back in SP Abuja section. 28th of August, courtesy Engineer Ikechukwu Okafor Prof and Prof Kafayat Adeyemi, we have this event for you. 28th August, 5 to 6 p.m. Of course, beyond sequestration, harnessing CO2 mineralization for environmental and engineering solutions. You will have a postdoctoral research fellow, King Fahd University of Petroleum Engineering and Minerals, KFUMP, Dr. Isa Muhammad, give us an amazing lecture on that day. We'll switch gears immediately to the closing remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Prof. Kafayat Adeyemi, our amazing programs chair. She gives us her remarks. Prof. Kafayat, the stage is yours, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone on the call. Good evening, Prof. Iledare. Good evening, senior professors on the call, and good evening, my my colleagues. It's been over 1.5 hours that Professor Iledare has been sharing passionately with us his numerous and exceptional analysis on economics and policies in the oil and gas space. And this time around, through the theme, navigating the global energy landscape. I picked one thing he said. He said, amongst numerous things, he said, 2 million barrels per day with 37 billion barrels should not be difficult. So there are issues with governance, data transparency. And he also mentioned we need to evaluate policies and know if the policy is delivering on our objectives, and so much more. In fact, his lecture needs time to even be digested further. We thank you for taking 1 hour plus, about 1.5, talking to us, sharing your perspective, your experience, and your analysis. We can't thank you enough. And for the senior profs that are also present, we thank you for coming. Thank you for being on the call. My Board of Trustee members and other attendees, we thank you all for making this monthly technical session and very interactive and engaging one. Thank you very much, Professor Iledare, for one of your many exceptional analyses. We are indeed grateful and happy to have you with us. I wish everyone a very good evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our amazing programs chair for that very amazing remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of this event. However, the conversation continues. At this juncture, I'd like to kindly appeal that you turn on your video cameras. Let's see your faces. Let's do a quick screenshot. And of course, let's network. Please turn on your video cameras. Let's see how awesome you look on an amazing Wednesday or Thursday evening. I see the amazing Prof. Yetunde. I see the amazing Prof. Kafayat. I see the amazing Odafe Atebe, our amazing, phenomenal publicity chair. Thank you. Turn your video cameras, please. Thank you. Video cameras, please. So earlier on, I made a mistake and said 7 professors. There are actually 8 professors on this call. Prof. Yetunde is on the call too, ladies and gentlemen. Amazing. Thank you, ma, for joining us. So, ladies and gentlemen, when I say SPE Abuja, you respond with culture of excellence and give me your thumbs up. That's all. That's instruction is from Prof. Ikechiko Okafo. And I say SPE Abuja, you respond with culture of excellence and your thumbs up. But we want more professors to on their videos, please. Prof. Babs, please on your video. Victor Alao, Ogene Rumu, Debo, Kase, Chirota Eboga. Oh, amazing name. Dr. Susan, would like to have you. Let's have the video shoots now. So when I say SPE Abuja, please unmute your mic. Culture of excellence. SPE Abuja.
Culture of excellence.
Culture of excellence.
But you're not smiling. Smile like Prof. Babs, please. Chicken Tail also, we see you, sir. Please, we'd like to see you smile too. SPE Abuja.
Culture of excellence.
The last time. And I want the louder cheer. SPE Abuja. I love that. You're all phenomenal. Please, for the next 5 minutes, network, gist, chat. I'll end the call after Dr. Ikechukwu tells me to off it. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It was a great one. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for inviting me. And the disclaimer is all of these are just my opinions. I don't represent anyone.
Of course, noted, and they are valid. They are very valid. Thank you so much.
For those who want the slide, I'll make it available after.
Yeah, Prof, can you send us the materials? Can we get the material?
I'll make it available.
Want to get the material? Thank you, Prof.
Or you can go to Emmanuel Ebuka Foundation website and download it. I just need to make some editing to make sure that grammars are correct.
Okay, Prof.
Citations not necessary. My best wishes.
Prof, we need the materials. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Oyelekan, thank you also. And Babs, thank you. Cassie, my erudite